Hello everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report for the month of August. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with the issue of suicide. It's one of the leading causes of death among young people ages 15 to 24. Mental health experts say young people are especially susceptible to suicide because they can experience many of the same stresses that face adults, but without the network of support and life experiences that most adults have. Dr. Keith Schaefer is the director of the State Department of Mental Health, and he says 1 in 5 public school students will attempt suicide at some point. He says it's an issue schools have no choice but to address.
And when you are confronted with a child who is scared to death and who has reached the point of pain level that he can no longer cope, or she, and they come to you for help, if you haven't at least stopped for a couple of hours, which is what I understand it takes, about a 2-hour segment if you try to do this on the website with some very good process, and you haven't thought through that, and you are hit with, as a teacher, a principal, a counselor, etc., with that child in front of you at that moment, I think you will regret greatly not taking responsibility for this issue, because this is clearly a life and death issue. This is not a quality of life issue. So I hope that people will do that, despite the fact that we're asking too much of them.
Dr. Schaefer participated in a panel discussion on suicide at the 4th Annual Missouri Safe Schools and Colleges Conference held last month. The annual event is sponsored by the Missouri School Boards Association in cooperation with the State Department of Public Safety, the Missouri Office of Homeland Security, and several other organizations and agencies. MSBA's fall regional meetings are coming up next month. The major topic will be legislative issues likely to be debated next year, including the continuing state funding crisis facing our schools. MSBA Executive Director Dr. Carter Ward says it may be time to start thinking about the revenue side of the equation.
Just as our parents were willing to sacrifice to give us opportunities, so must we be willing to sacrifice for our children and grandchildren's sake. And if that means some sort of state revenue increase, so be it. In fact, that seems to me like that's the very least we can do when we understand what is at stake in this global world in which we live.
Ward made his comments at the 2010 MSBA Leadership Summit. The Education Roundtable, made up of the major statewide education groups in the state and chaired by MSBA, has begun discussions on ways the state can raise additional revenue in order to prevent even more budget cuts to education. The Missouri Supreme Court has issued an important decision in a case involving the ability of students in unaccredited school districts to attend nearby school districts tuition-free. The court has ruled that the neighboring school districts are required to admit students from unaccredited schools regardless of space concerns. This court decision has the potential to cause overcrowding in some school districts, especially in the St. Louis area. You can read more about that decision in the August edition of MSBA's Board Bulletin newsletter. There's still plenty of time to register for the 2010 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators. The event is the largest gathering of school leaders in Missouri each year. It's scheduled for October 21st to 24th at the Lake of the Ozarks. Something new this year is the Build Your Own Schedule feature on the MSBA website that allows you to customize your conference schedule in advance. Visit the MSBA website for registration information, and be sure your board is represented at the Delegate Assembly to be held on October 22nd. The Delegate Assembly will be voting on legislative resolutions at that meeting that will determine MSBA's positions on a wide variety of issues as we head into the 2011 session of the General Assembly. Well, that's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting. Best wishes for a successful start to the new school year, and so long from Columbia.